stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no. They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no.
Hello, and you are tuned in once again to We Are Mighty. How y'all doing today? I'm so happy to see y'all. It's only been a couple weeks, but it always seems like it's been forever since we talked. So much happens in just 14 days. It's kind of unbelievable. And you try to keep everything so that I can share it with you. And this last time I did have to sneak and go live on my Facebook because there was some stuff that just was on my mind and I had to get it out. So anyway, my birthday was April 5th, the day that our last episode dropped. And I had gotten so many, as usual, so many Facebook happy birthday messages from like the day of up until at least 4 days after. Everyone wanting to get their happy birthdays in. But I was appreciative of every single message. And I knew there was no way that I was going to be able to go back and reply to every single message and say thank you. And then you also don't want to keep saying the same thing. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. You're great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I decided not to reply to them and just make a little video. And it was a video that was saying, in the end, it said thank you to everyone, but I also kind of put a message out there. And the message was just, that I've been dealing with a lot, especially with, the death of my son back in July. And I've been carrying a weight, if you will, a weight with me. The weight isn't the grief. The weight is the sadness that came from that grief. And I'm trying not to be as sad anymore, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean that I'm no longer grieving. And I realized a lot of people thought that when I posted my video. So the video I posted to say thank you, it was just me, some everyday, what they call be real stuff of me maneuvering through life, me at the cemetery, me riding in my car, and just, normal life stuff. And it was a narration over it, just saying, I've been through a lot and I've been dealing with grief and sadness, and I've decided that I'm not going to let that grief and sadness consume me. Meaning, I'm not going to let the grief and sadness overcome my life. But the thing that you can't forget, grief does not go away. It's not going to go away. There's no turning point where you can just say, okay, I'm over it now. Especially as a mother who has lost their child. There's no way that I can just flip that off and say, hey, I'm not grieving this anymore. I'm good. I'm moving on. That will never happen. And that seemed to be the misconception when I made the video, because in the video I said, I decided I'm not going to let it consume me anymore. So I'm going to pick myself up, dust myself off, and go through life with a more positive outlook. With that, you wouldn't believe how many people said to me, I'm so glad you're past your grief. Or I'm so glad you're over your grief. I'm not over my grief. It doesn't get rid of it. It's just trying to consciously be happier. Consciously try to be as close to who I used to be. But I'll never be that person again. We've had that discussion. But it just surprised me how many people thought that video meant that I was over my son being taken from me. There's nothing that could be further from the truth. So after I posted that video saying, I'm going to pick myself up, dust myself off, be more positive. With that being said, everybody, thank you for the birthday wishes with a big smile. And, posted it, got all the likes and reactions. The next day, I didn't want to get out of bed. I kind of knew that would happen because I put it into the atmosphere that I'm going to be more positive and I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm not going to let it consume me. And the very next morning, it consumed me. I had a pastor's wife who lives here in Rockford who spoke to me one Sunday during service. And she said to me, you have your outlets, you have your podcast, you have your social media, and that helps you. But there's going to be days where it's going to be difficult. And you take those difficult days, you deal with those difficult days, and then the next day you get right back up and it'll be a better day. Or at least you hope for it to be a better day. So in saying that I'm going to be more positive, that doesn't mean there's not going to be things that affect me. That doesn't mean I'm not going to cry anymore. It just means I'm trying to consciously go through life a little bit brighter. Because, it's people have said, how are you? I can see it. I can feel it. And I don't want to bring other people down. Yes, I'm dealing with a horrible loss. Yes, I will deal with it every day, but it's my loss to deal with. And I've always tried to be a positive person and to keep other people positive, even when other people dealt with tragedies. So it doesn't make sense for me to try to bring others down or be so negative or even continue to talk about my pain and my hurt when people are, trying to have a good day. It doesn't mean I'm not dealing with it. It doesn't mean I'll never share it again. I'm just trying to consciously move forward. And the thing that really pushed me is my oldest son. He talked about how his brother used to be, and Miles was never one to dwell on negative things, hurtful things. And he would say to me, Ma, this is his exact word, what is you doing? What is you doing? Come on now. It's too much to be happy about. And so I try to live by that. I try to think of those words and the way that Miles always was and how happy he would be even in the face of adversity. And I owe that to him. Again, the grief never goes away. I just am trying to live really the way that my son used to live. Miles was a beacon of light. Every person he ever interacted with loved him. He was hilarious, the life of the party. So why not? I was that way with him. When he was alive, I was that way. We would be the life of the party together. I actually was at the club one time and my son came in and we had a ball. So it kind of, I won't say upset me, but it was interesting to me that people thought for me saying that I was going to move forward being more positive, that I was past my grief. And when I was recording different bits for the video, I took a picture of my rearview mirror in my car. And really, I was just going to put it into my video for my, my thank you shout out video and all of my B-reels. But I couldn't fit it in there to where the narration fit that clip. And I was trying to figure out why, because there was a reason I took that picture, right? And I thought about it, and what I took the picture of, it wasn't what my rearview mirror was facing. It was the words. I was in the passenger seat and I took a picture of the words that said objects in mirror are closer than they appear. I've always paid attention to those words ever since I was little. I remember telling my mom when she was driving, "Ma, you see that car in the mirror? It's closer than it looks like it is." And of course she had to tell me, "No, Ed, don't say that in my mirror." But I thought I was doing something because my mirror said it was closer than it appeared. So those words have always stuck out to me in that mirror. But I took the picture when I was getting Be Real for my birthday thank you video, and I wasn't able to put it in the video. I wanted the video to be 30 seconds. It ended up being 50. So of course I didn't want to add any more to it. I didn't want to put any more narration to it because it would have been over a minute, especially if I would have added that picture of the mirror, because there ended up being so much that I wanted to say in relation to objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. So it became this whole thing for me. After my birthday, after I posted the video, I thought about, why did I take this picture? Like, there was a night where I just sat and looked at it like, what was the purpose of this picture? Because it's not in my video, so why don't I delete it? And I couldn't delete it. And I just started thinking about what that really meant to me. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. And I thought about, when you're driving, you're looking forward, but you're always checking your mirrors, right? You're always looking at what's behind you to make sure, everything's okay. There's no police officer coming for you. There's no crazy car speeding at you, but you're always checking those mirrors. And I've seen a saying before that your windshield is bigger than your rearview mirror because where you're going is more important than where you've been. I have a hard time now saying where you're going is more important than where you've been, but I feel like no matter where you're going, you don't want to forget where you've been. And that made me think about, as I'm trying to move forward, as I'm trying to be more positive, I'm not going to forget where I've been. I'm not going to forget the things that happened only 9 months ago. I'm definitely not going to forget that 24 years ago, I gave birth to an amazing little boy who came into this world without even crying. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the 24 years that I spent with my son. Well, 23 and 3/4, I guess. But everything from the point of Miles being born to the point that he's been taken from me, none of that leaves me. None of it. I think about things he did when he was a little baby, him learning to walk at 9 months. Yeah, it was 23 years ago, but it's closer than it appears. I continue to keep my son's memory alive. He's with me wherever I go. So, for the people who see you moving forward when you're dealing with grief, just because you have decided to try to move forward doesn't mean you're not constantly checking those mirrors, that you're not constantly seeing what's behind you. You're not constantly seeing what you've been through. There's a lot that I can still see that's closer than it appears. What was it, 16, 17 years ago, I was in a marriage where I was physically abused. It still sticks with me. Has nothing to do with my current marriage. I'm happier than I've ever been. But there are times when things will trigger and I may flinch and my husband's trying to figure out what's wrong with me, because even that object is closer than it appears. I'm no longer in that marriage. I'm no longer dealing with that pain, that anger that I had then, But sometimes there will be something, and it can be the strangest thing. Just like what we spoke about on the previous episode, a trigger that takes me back to that. And I have to snap out of it. But it's, almost 20 years ago. Closer than it appears. And I don't want anyone to think that there's a time frame just because I'm at a point where I'm trying to do things a different way and not be so sad. That doesn't mean, it's been 9 months for Tanya, so that means you have to, at 9 months, you should be changing things as well. No, you have to do what's best for you. You deal with your grief, you deal with your sorrow, your sadness, whatever it is, for as long as you have to. And again, I'm not done dealing with it. I can't be. There's still so much that I want to do to keep my son's memory alive, to keep his legacy going. So I'm not done. I'm just moving forward in a different way. Grief is going to be with me. Grief is going to hit me when I least expect it. And there's nothing I can do about that. The only thing I can control is how I allow it to affect me, or how long I allow it to affect me. My husband and I were in St. Louis over the past weekend, and we went to a comedy show. Some of my favorite comedians, and they were playing music, before the show started. And they played a song that I have a video on my Facebook page of Miles and I dancing to. And when they played that song, the first thing I did was pull up that video. It was a happy time, but I got choked up. That song, although it's a song that people, I guess you say, turn up to, when I hear it for a minute, I'll dance right to it. I'll sing along to it, but it always brings me back to my baby. It's always going to be with me. And that song is too popular to never hear it again. So what do? I take a moment. I think about that memory. I take myself back to that time when we had so much fun. Or I pull up that video. It's about 63 seconds long. I watch it. I have my moment. I shed my tears. And then I move forward. And it hasn't gotten to the point where I spend less time thinking about it. Almost every time I hear that song, I watch that 63-second video. All 63 seconds of it. It's to the point where I could probably do each dance move along with that video. Because it's a memory of happier times when my son was still here. And then, unfortunately, reality kicks in. That's where the tears flow. And that's where I hear Miles saying, "Mama, what is you doing?" And I try to compose myself. And of course, others are looking at me like, "This ain't a sad song. What's wrong with you?" Sometimes I explain it. Other times I just say, just give me a minute. And my close friends, of course, they already know. Family, they already know. But it's not like please turn that song off. No. I go through my moment and I deal with it as I deal with it. There's never going to be a day where I don't deal with my grief in some way, shape, or form. There's never going to be a day that I don't miss my son. There's never going to be a day that grief is not a part of my life. I just am choosing to control how it affects my day-to-day life, or attempt to, because I can say I'm controlling it, but there's so many things that I can't control. I just wanted to make sure people understand. I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to move better. I'm trying to be happier, but it's still with me. And that's the thing. That's why that rearview mirror sticks with me. Because, as it says, those objects are closer than they appear. And then I went as far as thinking about when you're driving in your car and someone else is coming at you, all they see is your car. They can't see what you are looking at in your rearview mirror. They may see what's behind you, but they can't see what you're looking at in your rearview mirror. It's the same thing. You may see me in public. You may see my face smiling. You don't know in the back of my mind what I'm thinking about. You don't know if I had just had a moment related to my son. You don't know if a moment is creeping up on me. All you know is you see me. I may be dressed fly. I may be smiling, makeup. But that doesn't mean in the back of my mind that my grief is not there. This rearview mirror thing was really crazy, how it just, so many things. It was almost like a sermon. It was pretty funny. I was at Bible study at church and I mentioned it to my pastor, and during Bible study, he started talking about it. At least he gave me credit for taking my stuff, but still. It literally came to me like a sermon. And it was weighing on me so heavily that I had to go on Facebook Live and just talk about it, because I felt like somebody needed to hear it right then. Our city has been having so much devastation. There's been so many crazy things happening. People have been dealing with loss, not just from malicious things. There's people who have lost loved ones unexpectedly, lost loved ones due to illness. And even in those situations, I felt like maybe one of them needed to hear, we know you're not going to forget that person that you lost. We know that that's not going to be something that you just snap out of. There's no way. Not if it's someone that you love. Not if it was someone that you're close to. And it doesn't even have to be a family member. There are people who lost coworkers, and it really upset them. And again, grief doesn't necessarily have to be related to death. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever it is that you've lost, that you just can't let go of, it's fine to keep it in your rearview mirror. It's fine. And nobody, I mean nobody, knows how close it truly is to you. It's closer than it appears. You can have someone walk up to you smiling, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? And you could say, everything is fine. And that person may lose it because they know you've been through something and they've been through something as well. And they just felt like you were someone that they could just release those feelings with, because you didn't know how close the images in their rearview mirror were. Everybody's dealing with something. I won't say everybody's dealing with grief, because there are people who haven't had to go through that yet. I hate to say it, but yet, because it's something that everyone will experience at some time. I pray for anyone who hasn't, that by the time you do, you are well on in age, but it's still not going to make a difference. it's still not going to hurt any less. It's just something that we deal with. And it's not something that we seem to talk about a lot. Unfortunately, it had to take for me to deal with it, for me to start talking about it. I just hope that somebody is being helped by it. And there was one other thing that stuck out about the rearview mirror. Yes, I'm still talking about that. Because there's so much. I'm telling you, it's a whole sermon that could come from this. So the rearview mirror that says objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Like I said, when I was little, I would tell my mom that her mirror had the same issue. And she said, no, that's not what's going on in my mirror. And it just hit me one day as this kept pounding in my head, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. It is only on the passenger side. That's interesting when you think about it. Of course, it's because of how the car is made and the aerodynamics or whatever that it's on the passenger side only. But looking at it from a spiritual standpoint, the thing that hit me, I am not the one who's driving. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think that is what has helped me a little bit with navigating this more. I'm not in control of it. I'm not driving it. I am not one of those people who will say, God is my co-pilot. I'm sorry to tell you, if he's your co-pilot, something's wrong. Something is definitely wrong. We shouldn't even be the co-pilot because we can't tell him how to drive it. But he's the one who's driving it. As a believer, I know that he is the one who's driving it, not me. Would I have wanted more time with my son? Absolutely. If I could snap my fingers, would he be here? Absolutely. Would this podcast be happening? No, wouldn't even have a reason for it because my baby would be here. But I am not in control. And that's something that's difficult to accept, but we have no choice. I literally just last week, after coming to that conclusion, just stopped asking God to turn back the hands of time. Because I'm doing nothing but hurting myself. Because I know that's not going to happen. Do I wish it would? Oh, absolutely. Every day. But they say that our whole life is predestined. It's already written. When we'll be born, how long we'll be here, and when we'll leave this earth. It's hard to accept when it's someone that you expected to be here much longer than yourself or much longer than they were here. It's hard to explain how that realization really clicked something in my mind. Doesn't change the situation, doesn't change that my baby was gone way too soon, doesn't change the fact that the world needed many, many, many more years with him. But it wasn't my call. It wasn't my call. Now, how hard is that as a mother to realize I couldn't decide how long my child would be on this earth? I can't decide how long anyone's going to be on this earth. So that's part of the reason that I've chosen to try to be more positive. There's still people here to make memories with. There's still people here to cherish. There's still family here to love. I can't turn my back on my family, even though a huge part of us has died. We just celebrate him. Whenever we come together, we celebrate him. That's how we keep him alive. That's how we keep him with us. That's what works for us. It still may end in tears. It still may end in sorrow. But we're still keeping him with us. He's still closer than anybody on the outside may think. Closer than it may appear. But he's still with us. We still take the time to remember everything that he did, everything that he lived for. I even said on my Facebook Live, I wish that I had the impact that my son had in just his 24 years on this earth. So I got work to do. I got work to do to even live up to fill his shoes. How crazy is that? I'm the mother, he's the son, but I got work to do to fill his shoes. And I mean that. There's no way that I'm anywhere close to reaching people the way that he did. It was just him. It was his personality. People will tell me, you raised an amazing guy. You raised an amazing son. And those things mean so much. And I strive to be just as amazing as he was. So yeah, I'm trying not to shed as many tears. I'm trying not to be as sad. I'm remembering the amazing things about him. I'm remembering the good things that happened in his life, the good things he brought to my life, the countless joy, the countless laughter, all of the positives. This grief thing ain't over. I'm just, I guess, turning over a new leaf with it. I don't even know if that's the proper phrase. I'm just trying to take it on from a different perspective. Again, I still cry. I will still cry. Before I do this podcast, I have to take a deep breath. I have to get my mind in the place that I want it, to try to stay here with a straight face and to try to be here and be strong. We know there's been a couple episodes where it didn't work. And that's fine too, because that's all a part of the grief journey. That's all a part of this new role I've taken on. A role I would have never asked for. A role I would have never signed up for. And if I had a choice, a role I never would have taken. But I didn't have a choice. And so now I'm in that role of a grieving mother. And I freaking hate it. I absolutely hate it. But there's so much more that I can give in taking on this role. And part of that is being here speaking to you. I hope you understand. It's hard to know from one day to the next what's going to happen. It's hard to know from 1 minute to the next what I'm going to say. Even here, this isn't scripted. I think about what topic I may want to speak on, and then I just let it flow. This isn't a movie. It's not a play. This role is a part of my life. And I know there are others out there who have to take on this role as well. And it may not be mother, it may be aunt, uncle, sister, brother. You may have lost a job. You may have lost. There are people who are connected to vehicles, have an accident, total that vehicle, and they cannot let go because they are grieving the loss of that dream vehicle. Anything. But hopefully, you are moving along to where it hurts less. It's not gone. It's in the rearview mirror. It's just not taking as much out of you. And when I say less, I just mean slightly less. But slightly less today, slightly less next week, slightly less next month. That hurt is getting a little bit easier to bear. Not easy, just a little bit easier to bear. And that's my hope for you. That you get to the point where it's just a little bit easier to deal with. It's a little bit easier to talk about if that's what you need. It's a little bit easier to go through life. It's difficult to go through life and see anything with guns right now. My husband can't play his Xbox. He had the game Call of Duty. If he plays it, he has to mute it. I can't hear the gunshots. It's gotten a little bit easier to where I can actually be in the room with him now, but he still has to mute it. Small victories. We have to take them as they come. I truly, truly hope that this message, this talk, has helped you in some way. I hope that you take your small victories. I hope that it just gets a little bit easier moment by moment. As always, whatever you do, in all that you do, be true to yourself, be strong, and be mighty. Remember, we are here every other Friday, everywhere that you view or listen to podcasts. If you'd like to join us, please feel free to send an email at wearemighty24@gmail.com. I love you. Be safe.
They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no. They won't stop me now, they won't stop me now, they won't stop me, no.